Thank you for talking to me today, Terry.
It's a pleasure.
Okay, so we've just got a few questions to ask you. How did you get into reflexology?
I was starting the McTimoney chiropractic course, and I decided that I needed to cover some other topics, some other skills, in order to pay for the course towards the back end. So I studied massage, sports therapy, and reflexology, and I graduated in all of them. That's how I started reflexology. And I started doing reflexology treatments fairly early on, wasn't it? In 95, 96.
Yeah.
And we did, I did whatever came along, whether people wanted massage reflexology or anything else. And I did quite a lot of it, because in those days that was part of our income. Because Tanja was just starting up, and
in a new place.
And I was wanting to get going and to get the course behind me and to get it paid for. So yes, that's how I got into it. And it started with just one of the tutors from the McTimoney course who said, "Have you thought about reflexology?" And I said no, and we talked about it, and it appealed to me, as most things connected with energy do. And I regard reflexology as very much a similar sort of thing to what I'm doing now, which is using energy to affect change in the body, or to not affect as much as to help to assist change in the body. And that's how I really got into it, and it just went on from there. When I came to New Zealand, reflexology, I tried to contact some New Zealand reflexology bodies, and I'd got a big sum zero in my attempts to contact them. And when we got here, I discovered why, because they were actually getting together and forming a new body called Reflexology New Zealand. And when I got here, that had been running for about, I would guess, about a year, because at that stage the president was going across to Australia, and they asked me if I would like to be on the committee, and I said, well, you know, I'm not very good at committees. I said, there are very few jobs I'd be really able to contribute well. And they said, well, you know, what do you think? I said, well, I wouldn't be any good as a secretary. I'd be useless as a treasurer, because I hate figures. But you know, maybe I should be president, I said, joking. They said, well, that sounds like a good idea. So I was then put up for president of Reflexology New Zealand and duly elected. I did it for 12 months, and in that time we achieved a degree of cohesion, and that was quite difficult, because there were groups within the organisation who were from a particularly strong previous body who wanted to dominate things a bit, and I was hard put sometimes to keep it under control, but nonetheless I think I managed to do that fairly well. Anyway, at the end of 12 months we were just really getting going with our practice here as chiropractors, or as holistic therapists, because we couldn't register as chiropractors. So I tended to want to get out of the administrative role with Reflexology New Zealand and start just working with therapies, working with patients and building up a practice. And so that's what I did, and I stood down as president, and what's her name took over? She's from Christchurch, and
Xanthi Ashton.
yes, Xanthi, that's it. And yes, she took over, and she went on from there. And I thought that was very good, because she was a very good president. She had time, and she had a practice up and running. She had time to devote to it, and she got good leadership skills as well. And perhaps I hope some of mine have rubbed off, because I have leadership skills. I've always held a leadership position in commerce and industry, and in the Royal Air Force, and I've been doing it ever since. I keep ducking when they're trying to elect people into leadership roles, but I'm not very quick at that. And so I'm still currently president of an organisation, even though I tried to avoid it for a long time, didn't I? So it just seems that it's something that's inherent in my personality that people want to elect me to leadership roles. I did the same thing with Massage New Zealand, because we joined them because they were the only ones who would recognise McTimoney. And we wanted a body that would support us. And so we went to the first AGM, and dang me if I wasn't nominated to be president. But there was a young lady who was nominated also, and I thought that was very good. I said, look, I'll tell you what, I will do the vice president role, and I will support this person in their presidential role and help her to get through the first year as being a president, which she'd never done before. So that's how it transpired. And then we had a massive problem with politics in Massage New Zealand, much, much worse than Reflexology New Zealand. And most meetings were spent prizing parties apart almost. And I didn't like that much, and so I wrote and resigned from Massage New Zealand at the AGM, suggesting that they fired the whole committee and started again with fresh blood, with no previous political or leadership and therefore committed positions. And I understand my letter was read out, and that's what they did. They got rid of the existing committee and started again, which I think was the best thing they ever did, because that organisation's been thriving too. Now, come back to reflexology. Now, obviously, whenever we had an AGM, or a conference rather, Tanja and I were involved just because we were here. And we did a lot of work with in setting up conferences and getting things right. And the last one we did was the Napier one, which of course was the 10th anniversary, I think it was, of the merger. And I say to my credit, I baked the cake, the two-stage cake. Somebody else iced it, but they did it with non-organic icing, where I'd been very careful to bake the cake totally organically. But nonetheless, it was obviously very popular because there was not a crumb left when everybody left the conference hall, and the chef at the conference venue, I was asking for the recipe. So obviously leadership skills extend into making cakes as well. So I gave him my recipe. We went to the UK in 2011, mainly because our business just dropped through the floor after the Christchurch earthquake. Largely, I think, because of migration of people down to Christchurch to help rebuild, because a lot of our patients are builders or in the building trades. And we had a lot of family pressure, so we went back to the UK. And we spent a year in one place and about 6 months in another, at which point we couldn't stand it any longer and we came back again. Lock, stock and barrel. And started up again here. And we had our first patients in the motel room the day of, or was it the day after we arrived? Day after, wasn't it? And that continued, and we got this place very quickly because one of our patients was worked for property brokers, and he put in a good word for us. And so when this place came up, within 48 hours of our getting back, was it?
24.
24. Was it as much as a quick slow as that? But anyway, we came over, saw it, and said it will have it, and we've been here ever since. And now we are not practicing reflexology because we have the skills in what we do, which is very, very different, but very, very similar. Because what we have done is brought energy to a form of chiropractic, which was whole body, coupled with another form of chiropractic, which is known as Corin-specific technique, which is to do with asking the body what it wants you to do and in what order it wants you to work. So it's working with the body, not on the body. And that, coupled with our energy approach, has proved to be highly successful. And as there's nobody else doing it, we thought, well, you know, we're better off doing that than doing some reflexology, which is well covered by other people, like Karen and so on. I think that just about brings you up to date.
Yeah, so when you studied reflexology, where did you actually learn?
There was a chap who ran these courses in Basingstoke, not far away from where we lived. And he taught the massage, the sports massage or sports therapy and reflexology, all up to what was the appropriate standard in the UK to get straight into the reflexology. I forget what it was called, but it was a specific reflexology association in the UK, which incidentally was well recognised and therefore was a good place to be. But I found the qualification bit was easy because I enjoyed the work. And we were a very enthusiastic bunch learning, and come from lots of variety of different backgrounds. And the teacher was just very, very good. He taught us bit by bit how to work the feet. And he also talked about how it affected the body and how it worked, as far as we knew. And he was also a McTimney chiropractor, so we had common ground. That's how it worked.
And did Tanja learn at the same time as you?
No, she can tell her story.
No, I learned at Lotus the year after we arrived here, because I thought it'd been a gentle way. I've always been very, very much in favour of reflexology for myself. Receiving it when I was a mother of 4 young children and totally stressed out, and a friend used me as guinea pig while she was training, and I had all these free treatments, which was lovely. But then later, when my daughter was about 12, and I was already a McTimney chiropractor then, but in very early stages, my daughter developed asthma, and she asked, "Mum, can you help me? Because I don't like this inhaler, it's awful." I said, "I don't really know, but I know somebody who can probably help you." And I phoned a reflexologist who actually lived about 2 streets away from us in Bedford. And he came every Thursday evening for 6 weeks and did her feet. And she loved it. She would be sitting on this chair, half asleep. At the end of 6 weeks, she threw her inhaler away. She's never had asthma again. The only time she's had anything to do with the breathing was when she got, what was it? I think it was an attack of anxiety, and I could tell her to hold her hand in some pressure points, which would help and relieve that. And she was actually halfway between home and university. She's gone back to uni to do a teacher training course, so that helped her calm down. And that was about 4 years before we came here. But I've never actually thought of doing reflexology until we got here, and the proximity of Lotus and the it was a very nice crowd there. I enjoyed it very much. It was the full year, the weekends. So, and I don't do any reflexology now.
We had the benefit of the anatomy and physiology
Oh
knowledge,
yes, yeah.
which we'd got from our chiropractic course, which I think makes it much easier to associate what you're doing with results. And I mean, both of us have always been interested in the human body and how it reacts to various forms of treatment. And both of us have used different forms of different treatments together with what we do in a sort of chiropractic sense, or can't use that word because we're not registered, but in the adjustment of the skeletal structure sense. For example, I quite often use acupoint, acupressure techniques to relax muscles which have been pulled into a state of cramping, and that works extremely well as well. So reflexology really fitted very well into the mould of what we did, because it gave us the ability to achieve things with people, or to assist people to get themselves well, which is what I think it's about.
How did you see yourself as a male practitioner back then? Because there weren't too many of you.
Didn't even notice really, did I?
There were.
There were some in England.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
But,
more common there.
I mean, my patient base for both massage and reflexology was both male and female. And with massage, we used to massage people in the nude, so with just towels over them, so you know, it just didn't make any difference. Never bothered me, it never bothered them. So I didn't see it as something particularly special. I'm just a person, and that's all I am, a person. I'm not a person who's a male, and therefore I should treat male people. Or I'm not, well, didn't see myself as a male in a female organisation. I just saw myself as a person, and always have done.
And how did you did you meet any other? How did you get on with other reflexologists that were trained in a different way to you?
I had no problem with that. In fact, it was a good learning experience, because you could always say, well, how do you do this? Or how did you do that? Or what do you do for this? And it was a learning experience in both ways. So I have never found that a problem. I've enjoyed learning the different forms of reflexology, you know, Chinese and the two different schools of reflexology which were mainly dominant during their first years. They both had something to offer, and I think the idea that they were somehow different was erroneous, and I just didn't go with it.
So the different forms, can you just talk about that a little bit more?
Well, they all came together really. I mean, there was we did Chinese reflexology. We did a course in that, didn't we? It seemed to be similar, but you were just working in a different order, and you were using a different form of pressure in various places. And some parts were more vigorous than we liked, and some parts were lighter. But generally speaking, the overall result was the same. And that the same thing applied to when you looked at the Thai treatment and the American school, I call it, which was based on the work of, I can't remember his name now, here's how long it is since I looked at it. But the actual founder of reflexology, basically, he set it up in a certain way, and there were certain schools that taught it specifically in that way, and no other way had any validity for them. I learned in the UK, which was entirely different. We came from a different angle, a different school, and learnt it in a different way. But the net result could be integrated very easily. Nothing was majorly different about what we were trying to achieve. All that was different was the way in which we'd been taught to achieve it. And I didn't see that as a disadvantage or as a problem, because I don't think, I mean, if I talk to a McTimney chiropractor now and talk about what we do, they'd probably be a bit aghast that we were doing some things so far removed from John McTimney's first ideas. But, you know, as I've always said, it's a progressive thing.